At exactly 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve, my phone started ringing. I was standing in my kitchen with a cup of coffee in my hand, staring through the window at the empty driveway. For the first time in 23 years, there were no cars coming, no headlights sweeping across the curtains, no children running toward the front door, no smell of my sister's cinnamon rolls, no arguments about who got the guest room, nothing. Just silence. Then my phone rang again. I looked at the screen. My older sister, Diane. I let it ring. A minute later, my brother called, then my mother, then my daughter. 5 missed calls in less than 10 minutes. I knew exactly what they wanted. They wanted me to come back. They wanted me to fix Christmas. But this year, I wasn't going to. For most of my adult life, Christmas had quietly become my responsibility. At first, I didn't mind. When my parents got older, I started paying for the big family dinner, then the decorations, then the gifts for the nieces and nephews, then the hotel rooms for relatives who came from out of town. Somewhere along the way, Christmas stopped being a holiday and became a bill with my name on it. Nobody officially asked me to take responsibility. That would have been easier. Instead, it happened little by little. My sister would say, "You always know what to buy." My brother would joke, "You're the one with the good job." My mother would say, "It means so much to everyone when you make Christmas special." And because I loved them, I kept doing it, even after my divorce, even after my business struggled for a year, even after my father died. I kept paying. I told myself that was what family did. But there was one thing I never admitted. I was beginning to resent them. I remember the Christmas 3 years earlier when I spent almost $6,000. I rented a large house because my mother's place wasn't big enough. I bought gifts for 14 people. I paid for groceries. I paid for the decorations. I even hired someone to cook because my sister said she was too overwhelmed. That evening, everyone sat around the table laughing. I stood in the kitchen washing dishes. Through the doorway, I heard my brother say, "Honestly, Christmas doesn't feel right unless we're here." Everyone agreed. Nobody looked toward the kitchen. Nobody knew I was standing there. I remember drying my hands and thinking, they're enjoying the Christmas I paid for, and somehow I'm not even in the room. That was the first crack. The second came the following year. My daughter Emily was 24 by then. She had moved across the country and rarely called, but every December she called with a list. "Mom needs a new phone. Uncle Mark wants that watch. Dad's side of the family is doing something too." And then, almost casually, she would say, "You can handle it, right?" I always said yes, until last December. I was sitting at my desk looking at my bank account when Emily called. She asked if I could pay for her flight home. I said I could. Then she asked if I could also cover her boyfriend's ticket. I paused. She noticed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said. "I'm just trying to keep things under control." She laughed. "You're always so dramatic about money." That sentence stayed with me. Not because she meant to hurt me. She probably didn't. But I realized something. My family had stopped seeing my sacrifices as sacrifices. They saw them as normal, expected, automatic, like electricity, like the heat in the house, like the Christmas tree appearing every year. I decided that this year would be different. I didn't announce it. I didn't threaten anyone. I didn't send a long family message. I simply stopped. In November, Diane texted me, "Are we doing Christmas at your place again?" I stared at the message for nearly a minute. Then I typed, "I don't think so." She replied almost immediately, "What do you mean?" "I won't be hosting this year." There was a long pause. Then 3 dots appeared. "They're all expecting it." I wrote back, "I know." She called. I didn't answer. The next day, my mother called. "Your sister tells me you're not hosting Christmas." "That's right." "But why?" I looked at the calendar on my wall. Because I don't want to. There was silence. My mother sounded genuinely confused. But you've always done it. I know. You love Christmas. I do. Then what's changed? I almost laughed. Everything. But I only said, I'm tired. She sighed. Sometimes family requires sacrifice. I closed my eyes. I've been sacrificing for years. She didn't respond. Then she said something that hurt more than I expected. Well, I suppose we'll see what happens. What happened was exactly what I suspected. Nobody volunteered to take over. Diane suggested my brother host. My brother said his house was too small. Someone suggested my mother host. My mother said she was too old. Emily suggested a restaurant. Then everyone complained about the prices. By the first week of December, there was no plan. And strangely, nobody asked me how I was doing. They only asked what I was going to do about Christmas. That's when I understood. They didn't miss me. They missed what I provided. Christmas Eve arrived. I had spent the afternoon cooking a small meal for myself. Nothing fancy. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, a pie from the grocery store. I set one plate at the table, one glass, one fork. For the first time in decades, I wasn't trying to make the house look perfect. There were no matching napkins, no enormous tree, no 30 wrapped gifts, just quiet. At 6:03, my phone rang again. Emily, I answered. Mom, her voice was shaky. Are you really not coming? Where? Grandma's. I frowned. I thought nobody was hosting. That's the problem. I could hear people arguing in the background. Then Diane's voice came through. Tell him he can't do this. Emily covered the phone, but I still heard her. My brother shouted. He knew we'd be stuck. I sat down. So that's why you're calling? Emily went quiet. No. Then why? She hesitated. Because everyone is angry. I looked around my empty kitchen. Why are they angry at me? Because Christmas is falling apart. I swallowed. Emily, Christmas isn't falling apart because I stopped paying for it. She didn't answer. Then she whispered. I know. Those 2 words changed something. Do you? Yes. I heard her take a breath. I've been thinking about it. About what? About how you always disappear during Christmas. I frowned. I don't disappear. You do. She sounded close to tears. You spend all day cooking, shopping, fixing things, making sure everybody has what they need. Then when everyone sits down, you're exhausted. You barely eat. I didn't know what to say. She continued. I thought that was just how you were. I looked down at my hands. Apparently it was. No, she said. It was how we let you become. That sentence broke something open in me. Not because it excused everything. It didn't. But because, for the first time, someone in my family was seeing it. Then Emily said something I never expected. Grandma wants to talk to you. I heard my mother's voice in the background. Put him on. I almost refused, but I didn't. Mom? Her voice sounded smaller than it had earlier. I owe you an apology. I leaned back in my chair. For what? For letting you believe that your value to this family was what you could pay for. I closed my eyes. For years I had imagined someone saying those words. I thought I would feel victorious. Instead, I felt tired. My mother continued. When your father was alive, he used to worry about you. I opened my eyes. What do you mean? He told me you were trying too hard to keep everyone happy. I stared at the wall. My father had been gone for 6 years. I had never heard that before. He said you thought being useful was the same thing as being loved. My throat tightened. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I was afraid you'd stop helping us. There it was. The truth. Not evil. Not dramatic. Just painfully human. My mother had enjoyed what I gave. My siblings had gotten used to it. I had gotten used to being needed. And somewhere in the middle, nobody knew how to stop. I told my mother I wasn't coming that night. She said she understood. Then she asked if I would come tomorrow. I thought about it. Only if nobody expects me to pay for anything. She laughed softly. Fair enough. The next morning, I drove to my mother's house. When I walked inside, the place looked completely different. There were fewer decorations. The dining table wasn't overflowing. Everyone had brought something. My brother had cooked. Diane had baked. Emily had brought coffee. Nobody had rented anything. Nobody had hired anyone. It wasn't impressive. It wasn't perfect. And somehow, it was the best Christmas we'd had in years. After dinner, Emily sat beside me. "I want to pay you back." "For what?" "Everything." I shook my head. "Don't. But just don't repeat it." She nodded. Across the room, my brother was washing dishes. Diane was arguing with my mother about a recipe. And for once, nobody was asking me to fix anything. I realized then that I hadn't actually stopped paying for Christmas. I had stopped paying for everyone's idea of what Christmas was supposed to be. The following year, we made one rule. Everyone contributes something. Money if they can. Food if they can. Time if they can. But nobody carries the whole family alone. It wasn't perfect. There were still arguments. Someone forgot the dessert. My brother burned the rolls. My mother complained about the temperature. Emily arrived late, but nobody blamed me. And when 6 o'clock came, my phone stayed silent. No emergency, no demands, no one asking what I had forgotten to buy. I sat at the table with my family, holding a cheap glass of wine, and looked around. For years, I thought love meant making sure everyone had everything. That night taught me something different. Sometimes love means putting the burden down and seeing who is willing to pick up their share. And sometimes you don't have to explain your exhaustion. You don't have to fight. You don't have to threaten anyone. You simply stop doing what everyone has come to expect. Then you wait, because eventually 6 o'clock comes, and when it does, the silence tells you exactly who is calling because they loved you and who is calling because they needed something from you.